Welcome back for episode 8 of Practical Wellness Podcast. Today, I'm with Katie and Sam, two nurse practitioners that have joined me in my wellness center, and we're going to be talking about big food, big pharma, the destruction of healthcare right now. We're in a healthcare crisis, why we went from traditional medicine to functional medicine, and semaglutide, which is Ozempic, and Mounjaro. We're going to be talking about it all today. And we're also going to be talking about your hormones. So stay tuned because episode 8 is coming right up.
My name's Samantha Emery, and I, as Jaisha said, am an adult acute care nurse practitioner. And I have a little over 20 years, I guess 22 years now, in the healthcare industry. Started from the bottom, worked my way up, going to nursing school and then nurse practitioner school. My main background is critical care, ER, ICU, and I did a few years in general surgery. And really, I left traditional healthcare because I just knew I wanted something different and to help my patients in a different way. Over the years, I have always loved helping people, taking care of people, making them a better person. And I just found that that wasn't happening. Everybody was getting worse. Nobody wanted to change that was coming to me. Nobody was improving their lives. And I just started feeling like part of the problem. COVID was something that really opened my eyes that I wasn't making a difference in people's lives and people weren't getting healthier. And so I wanted to leave traditional healthcare to just find out what else I could do to help people. And myself, I was going through a journey of health. I realized how unhealthy my family was, how we were eating things that weren't healthy for us. We were living lifestyles that weren't healthy. And so that really triggered me wanting to leave. And so my journey ended up here at Ginger Wellness. And I have loved working side by side with these two ladies because the thing that I love about it is not only do I get to help people in a more natural way of changing the things that are actually causing their diseases instead of contributing to them, I have you two.
Perfect way to put that, by the way.
Yes.
It's just a perfect way to put that.
I have you two that help encourage me to learn more about it, to treat them in different ways. Katie does so much holistic.
And I love, honestly, you bring that up though, Sam, but I love that we can bounce off each other. Mm-hmm. But even don't be offended if I send you to Sam or if I send you to Katie.
Yeah.
Because, there's different things that you guys specialize in that I just love. And I think that's a great environment to have. Don't be offended. We're not offended. We would never be offended if somebody said, I saw Jaisha couple months ago, and I really want to get into the more natural herbal, or, I want to get Sam's opinion. I would never be offended by that. And that's the environment that we carry. And I love
that because, I haven't always felt that way in my healthcare career. You get a lot of pressure to know everything about what you're talking to your patients about. And to be the expert and not to show any signs of weakness or that you need to look something up or you're going to research some more things to give your patients the best advice.
It's egos. Egos. And, we got to break through that. And I just love that we do it. Katie, you worked in ICU with me. Mm-hmm. And then you went to
labor and delivery. Right.
Yeah.
Then I went to labor and delivery. Yeah.
I remember I talked you into being a nurse practitioner.
You sure did. Yeah. Jaisha really pressured me into nurse practitioner school. And then I go through nurse practitioner school. And as I'm going through it, I'm like, gosh, this is hard. And you were like your first year as a nurse practitioner. You're like, yeah, Katie, you shouldn't have done it. I made a mistake. And I was like, great. Well, it's too late now. Here I am.
But see, everything happens for a reason.
Yes. No, absolutely. Because I always knew that this is where I wanted to end up. Yeah. Even before nursing school, that was kind of my path. I wanted to go into nutrition, actually, or be a dietitian because I just knew how much food impacted our health. But I ended up going the nursing route. And then, when you started your wellness, I remember I called you and I'm like, I'm waiting. When you're ready for me, I'm ready for you. And then as soon as I got off when I was on maternity leave this last time and you called me and you said, hey, I'm ready for you.
Yeah. And
it's been something that I will tell you, I was like praying for, waiting for, and I just knew that I needed to be ready because I wanted experience as a nurse practitioner before I started, kind of this journey. And so, yeah, it worked out perfect timing, and I couldn't be happier.
The one thing that nobody could say about us is that we don't have passion, because everything, like even when I started this, it became a passion. And everything has fell into place just like it is supposed to, when it was supposed to. And it's just been amazing how it's came about.
Yeah, if you would have asked me 3-4 years ago if this is where I thought I would be, no. I never
either.
would have pictured leaving the hospital setting. I mean, I got my nurse practitioner in acute care, which is the hospital setting. But it's funny how your life just takes different paths, and you wake up one day and you realize this is not where you're meant to be. And it's like you said, I mean, I know you've always wanted to do nutrition, and you've always been passionate about that. I've not been that way, not until the past few years in my own life.
But that also brings up a point, Sam, because we've talked about this, right? I think, Katie, you may have been raised a little healthier than maybe me and Sam were.
Yeah.
And so it's been a little harder for me and Sam to make these transitions. And even though, like, you understand that, like, you're very realistic with patience.
I think it's good having your perspective, though, because I am maybe sometimes unrealistic about how hard those changes are. Because for me, I'm like, what? Just eat the broccoli. Just eat the broccoli. It's not that hard. And for someone like you, you're like, no, that's really hard. Actually, I cannot do that.
Even
so it's good. It's
how many times have we came in and talked about like me struggling to get my own kids? I mean, I do this for a living now, and I struggle with getting my own kids to eat healthy. I struggle with myself a lot of times. I mean, this is a newer change for me over the past 3 years, eating healthy and figuring out what whole foods, why we should be eating them, how I was mistreating my body my entire life. And I hope that our whole nation is waking up to that. And I think that they are.
Yeah,
I think they are. Yeah. And there's,
Slowly
there's
but
some
surely.
awesome podcasts coming out, and I love it.
Yeah.
And I can remember saying 3 years ago to my clients, I said, it's going to come out. I don't know when. Could be 3 years, could be 10 years, could be 20 years. Yeah. It's just how long they suppress it, right? It's a profit-based problem that we have in this country, and part of the reasons that, we're going to start talking about some things, guys, because I think the population needs to know, our communities need to know, people need to start waking up to this. And it's not about, I think a lot of the times, I've said it 1,000 times, we tend to avoid things that we find too hard, because if we know then I'm going to put all this pressure on myself to be completely perfect, and then I'm going to fail, and I don't like to fail, so I'm just not going to know. I'm just going to ignore it. We got to stop, because at the very minimum, we've at least got to eliminate some of this stuff, even if it's by 20%. When we look at the stats, I got some stats here, guys. We got some facts today, because it's serious. It is an absolute serious problem. We're in a healthcare crisis. We have absolutely got to change, and it's got to start with the people, because that's the people are the ones that are suffering. And more than 40% of children are now diagnosed with a chronic disease.
Yeah.
Back in 2001 or 2007, that was 1%. 1%. And now
talk to any pediatrician. How much do they see now?
And it's off the charts. In 2000, 1 in 150 children were diagnosed with autism. Now it is 1 in 36. In California, it's 1 in 22. And when you hear these things and when you look at these stats, everybody's like, I hate stats. One thing that I can't decipher from a stat is that is likely underestimated. When you look at a stat.
Absolutely. All
underreported,
of them.
underestimated.
Absolutely.
And so it's much worse than this, guys.
Absolutely.
And autoimmune disorders are increasing by 13% every year.
Yeah.
Every year.
Yeah. And so it takes about 20 years to be diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. 20 years. And so you are suffering. You feel fatigue, brain fog, joint pain, all these things. And your doctor keeps looking at your labs and telling you that you're fine. 20 years. And then you finally get the validation and they start treating you with meds, which doesn't help.
Or they tell you you're depressed or you're anxious or I can't tell
you.
And
then we start on SSRIs and let's just get on all the drugs. Let's just get on all the meds. And we're treating chemical problems with chemicals. Yeah, that's exactly.
I can't tell you how many people come into the wellness center now, and I literally keep a box of Kleenexes there because they say, "I just have not been heard." Like I've been complaining about all of these things, and everybody says, "Oh, well, your basic labs look fine." But
you know what?
It's
been actually very rewarding for me because I was very unhealthy. You know, like we talked about, I grew up very unhealthy. Ramen noodles was like my staple. I loved it. And I know Katie's like, oh my gosh. And so that's why I started taking Juice Plus a few years ago. And, you know, it's like ding, ding, ding. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do to my body? Like I've completely crushed myself, you know, but we do that. And we get into these systems of, you know, eating this unhealthy. And I was so sick. And it's like, oh my gosh. And then when you start seeing it, how do you unsee it?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up eating well. My mom made full dinners every night. We didn't eat out a lot because we didn't have the money to. And that wasn't a common thing then either. We didn't eat all these processed foods. But as we got older, that became more and more common. It was easier to get. It just shows you the shift in our country even because our generation lived through that shift, becoming teens and adults. And it was then about convenience. I mean, we had like one fast food place in town, you know, maybe a couple, and now they're everywhere, and that's our go-to, and our go-to is the fast foods. And I get it, we're all busy, but whenever you wake up and see what that's causing for us, it's mind-blowing. I said this the other day, and you know, when I said it, it clicked in my own head, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if you think about this, because I think of somebody like my grandfather, you know, 80-something years old. He was raised on a farm. And so most of his life, they ate off the earth. They ate out of the garden, you know. And so for the majority, they ate homegrown. And there is an older population that we are still seeing some things in them because at some point they started eating the process just like everybody else did. But for a good point of their life, they ate farm raised. And my grandfather is a pretty sharp 80-something-year-old man, you know, in my opinion. But now look at what's happening. I didn't eat off out of a garden, you know, from my raising. And so what's going to be happening with our grandchildren because we're doing it literally from birth. Like we were talking the other day and I have stats of this. There is absolute microplastics being found in placentas.
In breast milk.
And you know, and I talk about how hard it is, and it is. I've got a water bottle sitting right down here, you know, and I remember reading this and going, oh my gosh, you know, and how am I going to change this? Because I'm driving over here today and I'm running late and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have water. I forgot Sweno had a fridge and I just had to grab something because I had to have water. And that's because it's so convenient. And it's so hard to get these things out and we don't realize what it's doing.
And it becomes so overwhelming whenever you start thinking about everything that we do every day. Once you research it and know all the problems and what it's causing to our health, it becomes overwhelming because we have lived such crazy lives and these are part of our everyday life. To eliminate all of them, it seems almost impossible. So it
makes me angry.
Yeah.
I'm at the point of angry, you know, and I've said this before. At some point, you know, you guys know because you've worked with me that I'm that girl. I want to be at the FDA. I want to be talking to that guy that says, how in the world is this happening?
Well, you better have a lot of money because you're going to need to pay him to get time.
That's literally true. Yeah. It's literally true. And what we've got to start doing is stop putting our money into these corporations and allowing them to grow billions of dollars that they control what we can feed our children.
Yeah, but it's so hard. So I like that Siete brand, right? And Pepsi just bought them out. Yep. $1.3 billion is what they got. And I get it, right? I totally understand that. But like I do all my due diligence, do the research and try to do these like local family companies, whatever. And you finally find a good company that doesn't have seed oils and a bunch of additives, and then
Pepsi, they're gone.
Boom, they're gone.
Bought
and
out.
Then if their ingredients don't change, do you still want to buy it though? Because then you're supporting Pepsi. So it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, you know, but where's the breaking point? Like where's the? I realize that we live in a capitalism.
I think we're there,
and
though.
You know, and I believe in that. Like we should work hard for our money, but I can tell you there's a point where it becomes unethical, and that's my problem. Is that it's become very unethical. You know, and I can even think with my own small business. I have thought about this a lot because I believe that money can turn things evil, and you know, at some point, we talk about this all the time because healthcare providers are not bad people.
No.
They're good people. They want to take care of people. But the system is set up this way. And even when I used to think, I guarantee you that when these things were created, it was not in the mind of the creator that these were going to cause this much significant amount of problems, because we were just creative and engineers, and we wanted to create and build more money and, make profits off these things. But at what point do they find out? Because they've had to have found out, right?
Yeah. You also have to remember they are the healthcare providers in traditional healthcare right now. They are doing all they can to take care of their patients and to get
everything
them better.
They can.
They are. They are doing what they've been taught and what is pushed on them. We have all these measures that we're supposed to meet. If someone comes in with this blood pressure, they automatically are supposed to get this med. If someone comes in with the cholesterol of this level, they automatically get thrown on a statin. All these things that we have to. We're supposed to do, and that's not, they can't encourage these patients to change their life, because these patients also are not educated on why they
But where
have
do these
this.
guidelines come from, Sam? Like you said this the other day when we were walking. Like, where do these guidelines that says, I had a patient the other day, came in, cholesterol panel. I don't think there's a lot of understanding about cholesterol, right? We look at a total cholesterol level. It gives you a percentage factor that says you have this much cardiovascular risk. So when you're looking at a cholesterol panel and you have a total cholesterol, then you have an HDL cholesterol, which is our good cholesterol. They say they want that greater than 40. I like it greater than 50. I love it when I see it's 70.
Yeah,
I love it when I see
Katie
it's 70.
one day.
And when you look at that, and the other day I had, a patient that came in, his HDL was 78, almost 80. We hardly ever see that, right? And his LDL was, I think, like 150. I'm like, okay, I don't really care that much about that. And triglycerides were 90. Like, perfect. They just put him on a statin.
Yeah.
Because all they're looking at is total cholesterol, and there's not even an understanding. Like, they've tested, you said it, they've done ultrasounds on people that have had a higher LDL cholesterol with a normal triglyceride level, and they find no buildup in their arteries. So why are we mandating treatment? And then it gets mandated by insurance companies even.
Because they make money off of it.
It's ridiculous at this point.
But for the providers, right, if you're a provider and you
Yes.
see this cholesterol really high and you think, oh my gosh, they're going to have a heart attack or a stroke. If I don't.
They put the fear in us, too.
Right, they put the fear in us. And then the drugs are FDA approved, and we have to practice within those guidelines. When you step out of those guidelines, right, as a provider, that's when you can get sued. And so you are giving these FDA approved things because that's what you were taught to do, and that's what's safest. And so, as a provider, you just want to do what you know to be safest and best practice.
Yes, and
right?
we all became providers for the same reason.
Right,
We
right.
love helping people. We
Yes,
want
absolutely.
to make a difference in this community.
But
what
we
does
just weren't
FDA
given
approval actually mean anymore? What does it actually mean?
Right. Well, for us, it means nothing, right? But as a provider in a traditional healthcare system, it's everything.
And
So-
we are not supposed, as a provider in a traditional healthcare setting, like you said, we're not supposed to advise any medications or anything that's not FDA approved.
So
Right.
let's start talking about Ozempic. This is a hot topic. And Ozempic and Mounjaro and what's happening with Big Pharma. And I'll tell you, our wellness center does it different. We just do. We want to help you. We will be beside you. We will monitor you through this. We believe in low therapeutic dosing to change habits, and to break these barriers that these big corporations and all of this marketing has caused. Because what we tend to do as a society is we blame the people, right? Like, what happened to smokers? Even though the tobacco industry made billions of dollars and doctors recommended it, we still blame the smoker, not the industry. And we do that consistently, and we've really got to realize that, that's a problem. That's a huge problem.
Yeah.
We have got to start identifying that too much of a drug is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
How many people do you have come into our wellness center that have talked to other people getting Ozempic or Mounjaro somewhere else, and they are frustrated with us because we're like, we're not putting you on those high doses.
Absolutely.
And we try to talk to them about the reasoning. And I think most of them are receptive once you explain it.
They are. And I'll tell you, though, a lot of them are coming from places and they're coming to us on these high doses. And that is even harder for us, right? Because we still want to do it. We got to backtrack. We got to restart. We got to really look. We got to optimize you. You know, we need to look at your nutritional level. We need to look at so many things.
And we don't want you
it's
on
not
these
happening.
forever.
It's not about just getting on a drug.
Because it's not about money for us. That's the thing,
Yes.
right? If it was
It's
about money for us,
ethics.
we
It's
would give
ethics.
it
It's
to
ethics. It's
everybody
ethics.
and crank them up because they're going to use more.
And yeah, we'd make more money off more vials and
We don't
those
wanna
things,
do
but we
that.
don't want any of that. I mean, especially me, I'm hesitant to use it, and I use it to, like you said, for lifestyle changes, to curb those cravings and break that cycle. And then once you do, then they do so well.
Yes.
And then they don't have to be on it forever.
For those people, and there are those people in this world that will sit there and say, not that hard. They should just do that. But those people are also the skinny fat people that eat the junk all day and they just don't see it on the outside and it's happening interiorly. You know what I mean? But to think that we have been marketed to and done what has been done to our society and people don't need help is absolutely ludicrous, in my opinion.
Because these chemicals that are in the food are so addictive. So addictive. And so any addiction is hard to break. And so using a little bit of a low dose GLP-1 is a great way to break that addiction.
Tobacco industry actually sold a addictive chemical compound to the food industry.
Well, they hired the big food companies hired the tobacco industry scientists to come in and help them make our foods cheaper so people would want to buy them more. How we could make these foods cheaper
but
and
mass produce. Mass produce and addictive.
To where we want it and we have
worked.
to have it. Just like cigarettes. We wanted them and had to have them.
Worked like a charm.
Yeah. And now we're all suffering the consequences
But what's
of that.
happening look at what's happening with Ozempic and tirzepatide, you know? And I think what people need to understand is when pharmaceutical companies make these drugs, you know, they can patent these drugs for 7 years. So semaglutide had a patent for 7 years and a generic can't be made. It kind of monopolizes the molecule, right? Because it can only be made by Eli Lilly unless, you know, a compounding pharmacy compounds it a little differently or it's on a shortage list, you know, which they've been on a shortage list. And everybody was blaming compounding pharmacies because that came from Big Pharma. That doesn't happen that way, guys. You know, when you realize what's happening, that's supply and demand. They do that on purpose, you know, and now they don't want us microdosing patients. You put somebody on this in traditional healthcare, you have to fight to keep your patients on low dosing.
Yeah.
You have to fight
They
for
do
it.
automatic titrations because that's what the protocol for those drugs are from
And
the
now
FDA
they're
and the
fighting
drug companies.
within Congress to get these drugs approved for 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
6-year-olds. And 6-year-olds are the easiest to change their lifestyle.
Absolutely.
So we're just going to start throwing 6-year-olds on Ozempic and tirzepatide. And I think people that get the wrong idea of what we do sometimes just because we sell it.
Yeah.
And guys, no. And that's got to stop. That is absolutely problematic. And it's terrifying. But the amount of kids that are on psych drugs, same problem, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It's
Same
sad.
problem.
And women, what is it, 25% of women are on an SSRI?
I have that on my here, yeah.
I mean-
for anxiety and depression, which is hormonal, it's metabolic, it's a nutritional problem.
It's a gut problem because why? Every woman has heavy periods, so they get put on birth control. What does birth control do? Destroys your gut lining, where your dopamine and your serotonin are mostly made where? In your gut. And so, you know, and then we put them on SSRIs because, now you have anxiety because of maybe the birth control that I gave you. Just to
Then
put
you
it-
have weight gain.
Yeah, and then you've got weight gain. And then you got, it's just a cascade, right?
Yeah.
So
It's catastrophic. It's catastrophic events that are occurring from pharmaceutical companies. And it's just because, you know, I don't blame parents that, you know, do this. Guys, I was reading a story and I've got to bring this up because this makes me angry too. So I wish I'd have read this last night because forgive me, it's the wrong year, but this happened a few years ago when there was a mother, and I forget the age of the child. I think she was about 7 years old, and she died from malnutrition. Actually, she died from type 2 diabetes. And when they went into this house, it was you could tell, I think a little, you know, not mentally, there wasn't the intelligence level there. Mother herself was not healthy, very big, probably very diabetic. The child's diet was like Mountain Dew and candy. And, they died.
Yeah.
Well, the mother is now in prison. And to the point, I understand that is a level of neglect, but where's our FDA?
Right.
Where is our responsibility when these things are illegal in every other country?
Yeah.
And we're not giving these people the education. We want that shut down because that's profit-based. So in my opinion, the biggest culprit there is our FDA.
Absolutely. And then what are we subsidizing too, right? Food stamps, that's what you get. You can get your Pepsi, you can get your Skittles, you can get your chips and all those things, and for a really, really cheap cost, right?
Yes.
And so it makes sense. If you're low income, which everyone right now is struggling, you don't want to spend the extra $100 at Walmart for good, healthy foods when you could save that money and buy these lower quality foods that are cheaper. And so this whole system is rigged against you. It's sad. It's sad because as a mom, you want to make those good, healthy choices for your kids, but you just don't even have the means to.
Yeah.
And your hands are tied. And so it's
and that's what I love. I want to bring up that you started doing like full female workups at Ginger Wellness, like pap smears, wellness exams, breast cancer prevention, things like that. We're learning things about thermography, which are a lot healthier ways of catching cancers than even mammograms. I don't even like saying it because I don't want to ever, influence somebody to not get checked. Yeah. But it does increase risk when you're squeezing on things and you're busting up cells.
Yeah. I think it's we'll have to fact check it, but I think it's 1.3. It increases your risk every time you get a mammogram by 1.3% for breast cancer, I think is what it is. And again, not to say that you shouldn't get it because mammograms save lives, right? We've seen that, but we do them yearly.
And
Europe does
every 3 to 5 years. And
we're doing it yearly, and we still have the highest breast cancer rates.
But it's because of our food, and kind of what we're having is a catastrophic event because we're living in a high estrogen society.
Right.
We really are.
Our young girls are starting their menstrual cycles at the age of 10 and 11, and the average in not this country, that is the average in this country, is 10 to 11 years old. But worldwide, it's 16. And it used to be 16 here in the 1950s. And now it's
not anymore.
No.
I can promise you that.
Me personally, I struggle with, feeding my kids right. I wish that I was Katie whenever my kids were born.
I know, me too.
Because now it's hard to change for myself, my family. And it's hard to get them to realize. And I really wish that I would have known what I know now then. And I think that most of our country is that way. I think we're waking up and we're seeing that we have got to change and we've been misled.
And we got to get loud. And if you get loud, our food will get cleaner. Everybody, I was watching that. I don't even think people realize what's been going on in Congress and within the Senate. And, the whole big food. There was a whole week of Congress sessions over this, and everybody should ban Kellogg right now, in my opinion. Kellogg brand should not be bought in this country, period. Because if you look at what's happening, look at the Canadian brand of Kellogg. They dye their Fruit Loops with carrots and beets. But we're feeding our kids these chemicals, and we have all of these issues with autism, autoimmune disorders.
In this country, it's dye, not carrots and beets.
Yeah, it's dye because it's cheaper. They can mass produce it. Our country allows it because they're lobbying for it. Yep. Mm-hmm. It's the same reason that pharmaceutical drugs are cheaper in other countries than they are in this country.
Because that's not their first recommendation either, because they don't need them as much as we need them.
Where's our ethics though? Like why did we stop caring about the patient and the person, even through government and FDA? It's just, where's our checks and balances anymore, sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying when you really think of it. But that's why we started doing hormone therapy. Yeah. You specialize in male hormones and do female hormones. You specialize in the female. And the reason we had to is because of our environment, right?
Yeah. Used to, men's testosterone did not drop until they were a lot older. Now we're seeing it in 20s, 30s.
So it's even the stats, like we were talking about stats. Yes, they're underestimated, guys. You're right. They're not always right. They're just a little under. And so that should be terrifying to us, really.
Yeah.
But it's 25% of men under 40 are diagnosed with erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
And that's why when you look at what's happening, when you look at the pesticides that we use in this country, what we use is there's aromatase in these pesticides that is not used in any other country.
Mm-hmm.
This is made in other countries and now sent to America for our convenient use, but it is not used in any other country. And aromatase will actually turn testosterone into estrogen. So I am seeing men in their early 30s, mid 30s with very low testosterone levels, and it's not normal to feel that way.
Yeah.
Even women with their low testosterone.
And it's not just
absolutely.
about how you feel. That's what I tell our clients whenever they come in. I get you want to feel better, and that's our goal. But it's not just about that. The health risks with low testosterone are huge.
We believe in it, yeah.
It can be life-changing for people. We
believe in education too and teaching, just like the modalities that we do with hormone therapy. You know, there's a few different administrations. Mm-hmm. We offer pellet therapy. We don't always recommend it first line, right? Because it's not the safest. But we have to learn that we have got to start getting educated about our health. We have got to start doing risk versus benefit analysis when we're making decisions on our health. And the reason being is like you'll even see wellness centers that are going to promote this a lot. Guys, it's profitable. You know, we know it's profitable.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's the right option.
Right. But here's the thing. Every person is different, and some women, you know, love the pellets and they want to stay on it. And that's great. If you are educated, and hopefully your providers, and we do, educate you about risk versus benefits, the different ways that we can do it. And then you as the person make that choice because it's your body and you decide that that's the best therapy that you want to proceed with.
And we will do that.
Yeah, that's great. And we will support you through that. And that's
that's what I love about it. But people have got to start becoming more educated about their health. That is why we spend an hour with our patients on functional medicine consults.
And more accountable. That's the thing is, you know, the generation before us just did whatever the doctor told them to do and didn't want to take accountability and have to do the research. And now luckily, you know, with internet and things like that, people can do the research, but you have to be accountable for your healthcare too, because you have to think, when I was a provider in a healthcare system, I had thousands of patients. I cannot be accountable for every single person's health. It's not doable.
You have to be your own advocate.
Absolutely.
You have to.
And
but that's
charge.
also why we use a different model.
Yeah.
You know, and if you can see like kind of what we're doing, I do male hormone therapy too, you know, but a lot of our patients are going to now see Sam and are going to see Katie because for the past 3 years, I've been building a clientele and we want to take good care of our people.
And I do think that we have a benefit over the traditional healthcare providers. And I think that we recognize that and we feel for our fellow colleagues. Because the benefit that we have right now is the people that come to see us, they're there to make a change.
Yeah.
They want to make a change. They have realized that what they're doing in their life is not working for them because we don't take insurance. So someone has to make that decision that they are wanting to invest this time and money.
Yes.
And so whenever we get these patients in, they're wanting to change things. So it's easier to guide them and educate them. You know, we've all been in traditional healthcare and we know what some of our patients were like. They come in, they want a prescription, they want you to make them feel better with a script pad, and they're not changing anything.
But I think we're seeing an evolution in that though a little bit. I think people are really starting to wake up.
Absolutely.
And you know,
and we have some key people that are really talking in our country about these issues. And people are starting to listen up,
they are.
and it's great. And
they need to. And it's like, I want this community. That's why we started doing our TikToks, you know, because I have had so much information that you just, when you learn and you continuously learn, you just want the people to know. You know, you guys deserve to know these things.
Oh, ask all of my friends and family. They get tired of listening to me, I'm sure. And I'm not perfect either. I struggle every day with the foods that I eat because, like you said, that's all around us.
Do you know what I realized? I've now became the person that I used to call crazy when I was in traditional healthcare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. You mean humans should eat human food?
Yes. Well, I mean, even 5 years ago, I remember just 5 years ago, I remember one of my friends asking me about hormone replacement therapy. And I was like, girl, no, don't do that.
I know.
There's so many risks involved with it. You're going to end up with cancer. You're going to end up with stroke and heart attack.
Bioidentical hormones.
The research,
the life-changing benefit is astronomical.
And the research out there, of the benefits of how you feel and your life changed for the general well-being and decreasing your risks. I mean, estradiol is huge in our bone production. Mm-hmm. We have all these fractures of our older population from small falls, and why? And then we put them on things like Fosamax and things like that.
Yep.
That the two biggest risks with that is spontaneous femur fractures, which is the biggest bone in our body. It just spontaneously fractures, or like your jawbone rotting off. But I thought that this drug was supposed to help protect our bones. We need to replace the things that are depleted in our body that are leading to the bone depletion and our other risk factors.
And sedentary lifestyle.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We got to start getting out and moving again.
And it's
Everyone
not that
just
we don't
sits
believe in all
inside.
medicines.
No, absolutely. Acute, I am so thankful for hospitals.
Yes.
You know, my husband, he works on the flight team. I'm so grateful for them. And I am so grateful for all the life-saving measures and antibiotics and things like that. But are they overused?
Absolutely, because they
100%.
found out they're profitable. And that's the problem
And right now, these patients need these drugs sometimes because they're not living the lifestyle that we're supposed to. Obviously, we have to treat diabetic patients with medications if they don't change their diet, if they don't change their lifestyle.
Otherwise, they die.
Yes.
So
there is a time and place for that, but we have to understand why we are sick.
Absolutely.
In this country.
And how to fix it. I think that's the biggest thing is how to fix it. Now, people are like, okay, well, all this stuff is bad for me. Well, what do I do?
Yeah.
That's the hard part, right? Just like I was talking, I've got my water bottle down here.
And there's studies for everything. Like, oh, this is bad. Oh, I should have oatmeal. No, wait, I shouldn't have oatmeal. Oh, wait, I should have eggs. No, I shouldn't have eggs.
So that's also why Jaysha likes the common sense diet. Honestly,
Absolutely.
we got to go back to common sense a little bit, guys. Yeah. And we've got to stop focusing on research, fad diets, all these new selling things, and all of these new gimmicks, gadgets. You know,
trying to be the best that you can be with it.
Trying a starvation diet will wreck your hormones. Like, tell them, Katie. Like, a diet that starves you wrecks your hormones.
Absolutely wrecks your hormones.
You become
Don't do it.
metabolically worse at the end. And you've already gained it all back, and you're metabolically worse than you ever started.
Yeah.
Stop doing that and really learn about your health and start engaging in good health practices and get our kids healthy, because we don't want to live in a system of sickness.
Mm-hmm. And read the labels, and that can be super overwhelming too. Yes. But if you don't understand 50% or more of the ingredients on the list,
it's not good.
It's not good for you.
It's not good.
And you shouldn't have to read labels for your food. That's what I always tell my patients. Yeah. You should not have to read labels for your food. And I get that
we do.
And it's hard. And But when you really focus and kind of shift to a whole food diet, it gets a little bit easier. But you don't have to read labels. I don't have to read labels for my grapes. I don't have to read labels for my berries. I don't have to,
No, but I heard you soak them.
We just figured this out while we were getting ready for this podcast.
We always learn from each other. I love it. And so now I'm like,
I just rinse my fruit.
Yeah.
And Katie told me that's not good.
No, I soak all my fruits and vegetables in baking soda before to get rid of all the pesticides on there.
And
we really need to be doing that.
15 minutes. And I don't know the exact, there is, and I'm sure we can tag it or something. It's, like a tablespoon per how much water. I don't know. I just eyeball it and soak it and call it good. But you have to be careful, because if you do that, especially if you do it with vinegar, and some studies recommend that you do it with vinegar. I don't, but it can make them rot faster. Yeah. And so I do it in like batches,
Oh, yeah.
That's right. That's why we're also on TikTok. And we've started doing videos. We've started videos on the food in the stores. And we, went to the grocery store one time. That wasn't... Katie didn't enjoy that too much.
I don't do good on the spot.
We started doing them in the office, but we want to give you guys the information, and so follow her. And I wish we could give all the information in one podcast. And I know that I'll have you girls back here, doing another podcast again soon, because, it's good to get this information out. Mm-hmm. But follow Minmo Integrative Health podcast, or TikTok,
Instagram,
TikTok.
But I think the biggest thing is just make the small, sustainable changes where you can, right? Like, today, you happen to bring, or you didn't bring a water bottle. I have my, big old water jug that's not plastic. And my daughter, she's 2, and my son who does bottles, they're glass or they're stainless steel. And that's a small, small switch. And same with their plates and things like that. We do like the bamboo or glass. instead of the plastics.
Unfortunately, I'm still 5%
just,
plastic today, Katie.
But small changes, small changes over time, right? And that's what is consistent change. Instead of buying the Ziplocs, maybe go for like just a glass container.
And once you know it, once you know the risks, you start noticing everything that you do.
Yeah, and it's not that we're not going to, right? Like when we're stuck in a situation, but man, I have this in my hand. I'm like, plastic.
Right. And that's okay though.
But I'm thirsty.
But that's okay. If you are consistently reducing plastic in other areas, then the one time you use a plastic bottle, it's okay. And same with when, you are consistently eating healthy and then your kid wants to go out for ice cream, it's okay because 90% of the time we're at home and we're eating good, healthy foods. And so her little body can handle when I give her that little bit of sugar, that's not going to be the toxic overload or the thing that does it in because we are consistently eating healthy. And so that gives you a little bit more freedom too. Like,
and it makes a huge difference. Yeah. It makes a huge difference. It is a transition. It needs to be a slow transition. And it doesn't need to be in a restrictive way. And I think that's why we teach things the way that we do. Yep. And we believe in the use of a GLP-1 like we do because it can help that process. And it can really break those habits. But I love it. And that's why we just see the community improve. I think we've seen a lot of good things in our wellness center. And I'm just so excited to get to work with you guys. Mm-hmm. And next time we'll have probably a lot more to talk about because we're always researching. We're always looking. You guys have got to check out Casey Means and Callie Means. Mm-hmm. I was super stoked when that was coming out because I had never seen it on a national platform. Now we're hearing it on a national platform, guys. Go look up this stuff. And I'll tell you, Bobby Kennedy, RFK is talking about it. Absolutely. And Casey Means is a surgeon, that went to Stanford University. And go listen. It's all true. It's all true. And we've talked about it today. But we're going to come back and we'll do more of these. But it's been so good having you guys. It's been excellent. And we will see you at the next podcast.